On the morning of March 22, 1984, a Pacific Western Airlines Boeing 737-200 prepared for takeoff at Calgary International Airport in Alberta, Canada. It was supposed to be a routine domestic flight, one of many operated daily by the airline. The crew had completed their pre-flight checks. The passengers were seated and unaware of the trouble to come, and the weather was generally favorable. Yet within minutes of commencing the takeoff roll, the aircraft would be engulfed in flames. Remarkably, all 119 people on board would survive, a rare outcome in aviation accidents of such magnitude. What followed was an intensive investigation into what had nearly become a tragic disaster, ultimately revealing how a chain of small errors and misjudgments could cascade into a life-threatening situation. The aircraft involved in the incident was a Boeing 737-200, a workhorse of short to medium-haul commercial aviation. Designed for reliability and efficiency, it had become a favorite among airlines around the world. On this day, however, even the best design could not override the fundamental rules of physics and the necessity of rigorous procedural adherence. As the aircraft began its takeoff roll, everything appeared normal at first. The engines roared, the runway sped beneath the fuselage, and the nose started to lift as the pilots rotated for liftoff. However, the rotation was excessive. The nose pitched upward too steeply, and the tail struck the runway surface in what is known in aviation terminology as a tail strike. This seemingly minor incident was the first visible indication that something was wrong. But it was not immediately evident just how dangerous the situation was. As the tail scraped the ground, sparks flew, and heat began to build within the aircraft's structure. A fire ignited almost instantaneously, likely fueled by the intense friction and possibly compromised fuel lines or systems near the rear of the aircraft. The cockpit instruments may not have immediately alerted the pilots to the fire, but ground personnel and observers saw the danger quickly. Flames and smoke became visible as the aircraft struggled to gain altitude. The pilots, realizing the severity of the situation, aborted the takeoff and brought the aircraft to a stop on the runway. The rapid response of both the crew and emergency personnel on the ground was critical to what would become one of the most miraculous survivals in Canadian aviation history. Once the plane had stopped, evacuation began. Slides deployed, exits opened, and passengers were guided out as fast as possible. The fire spread rapidly, engulfing portions of the fuselage, and smoke began to fill the cabin. In these moments, training, clarity, and calm made the difference. The flight attendants remained composed, directing passengers efficiently and preventing panic. Within minutes, all 119 people were off the aircraft, many with only minor injuries or none at all. Moments later, the aircraft was consumed by fire. The immediate cause of the incident was determined to be over-rotation during takeoff. But why had this happened? The subsequent investigation by Canadian aviation authorities uncovered a deeper and more concerning root cause. The aircraft had been overweight. There had been miscalculations in weight and balance, and the aircraft was carrying more load than it should have been for the conditions of takeoff. Overweight conditions reduce an aircraft's performance, increase required takeoff distance, and alter the dynamics of how it handles during rotation. The over-rotation under normal weight conditions might have resulted only in a tail strike, with some structural damage, but under the excessive load, it became catastrophic. The aircraft's balance was affected, and the tail strike produced far more severe consequences than would otherwise be expected. Investigators noted that while the pilots did attempt to manage the aircraft's pitch, the inputs were not sufficient to counteract the excessive rotation combined with the aircraft's overloaded condition. One of the most significant findings was the miscalculation of the aircraft's weight. Aircraft weight and balance are calculated based on numerous inputs: passenger weight, cargo, fuel, and even the distribution of that weight throughout the fuselage. On Flight 501, the assumptions about these variables were off, either due to faulty data, miscommunication, or procedural lapses. The result was an aircraft operating outside of its certified limits. This incident brought to the forefront the critical importance of accuracy in pre-flight planning. In aviation, small errors compound quickly. A miscalculated passenger weight. Average, for example, might only result in a minor deviation on paper, but when scaled across a full flight with cargo and fuel included, the cumulative error can be dramatic. Furthermore, the fire resulting from the tail strike highlighted vulnerabilities in aircraft structure and material under stress conditions. Boeing and regulatory bodies studied the fire progression and noted areas where improved fire resistance or better containment could reduce the risk in future incidents. Recommendations were made to reinforce certain sections of the aircraft, enhance evacuation protocols, and improve fire detection systems. The survival of everyone on board was hailed as a testament to both training and fortune. Pilots undergo regular simulations and drills to handle emergency scenarios, but the real-world demands of such a situation test even the most seasoned crew. In this case, the pilots made quick, decisive actions to stop the aircraft and initiate evacuation. The cabin crew, often overlooked in discussions of aviation safety, proved to be indispensable. Their calm demeanor, effective communication, and leadership under pressure saved lives. The passengers themselves contributed to the positive outcome by remaining largely cooperative and following instructions. Human behavior in emergencies can be unpredictable, and often the outcome hinges not just on mechanical factors, but on psychology. In post-incident interviews, many passengers reported that the crew's demeanor inspired confidence, helping them stay calm during evacuation. Emergency responders on the ground also played a crucial role. Calgary International Airport had well-trained firefighting and rescue teams, and they were on the scene in moments. Their ability to control the fire, assist in evacuation, and provide immediate medical attention prevented further injuries and potential fatalities. Following the incident, Pacific Western Airlines conducted an internal review and cooperated fully with aviation regulators. The airline took steps to overhaul its weight and balance procedures, retrain staff, and implement stricter oversight of loading and fuel calculations. The Canadian Aviation Authority issued recommendations not only to Pacific Western but to the broader industry, emphasizing the universal relevance of the lessons learned. In the broader scope of aviation safety, Flight 501 became a case study. Training programs around the world incorporated the incident into curricula for pilots, maintenance crews, and cabin staff. It served as a vivid reminder that safety begins long before the wheels leave the ground. Every checklist, every calculation, and every communication plays a role in the safe execution of flight. Perhaps most enduring is the legacy of survival. Unlike many aviation accidents that end in loss and mourning, the story of Pacific Western Flight 501 stands as a rare example of how preparation, training, and quick thinking can avert disaster even under dire circumstances. It is a story told in flight schools and safety seminars, not only for what went wrong, but for what went right in the moments that mattered most. Thanks for watching. Be sure to share this video with fellow aviation enthusiasts and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next story.